Please don't say it's a jam-packed episode. Please don't say that today.
This is quite possibly the biggest episode we've ever had. No disrespect to any of our previous guests, Spring League MVP Brian Scott, friend of the show Chad Ochocinco, Patrick Dees, my wife. This is honestly, wouldn't you say the biggest guest, biggest show we've had so far?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. And no disrespect to Chad Ochocinco.
No. I think Ochocinco's a little bit bigger. Not by much. No disrespect.
1-1.
Okay, I'm going to vote for Ochocinco because we did have Ochocinco. But I don't think this guy's big.
We're huge.
Big.
We got worked on this for about a month. We got Greg Miller, one of the owners of Fan Control Football, one of the team owners, coming up later in the show. So just kind of order of operations today. We got some XFL stuff. Then there's a ton of Fan Control Football stuff. So people that are interested in that, we're going to do all the XFL stuff, all the notes and everything from that. And then we got Greg and all that. So tons of stuff coming up, but it really is like tons and tons of fan controlled stuff with the new website and the rules and investing in the league and all that stuff. So we're going to get into all that as well. But yeah, you got a new backdrop. You look good. You got your nice hat and jersey on.
Yep. I made a promise. I said, if DJ LeMahieu re-ups with the Yankees, I'll go buy another Yankees jersey. I wanted a Pinstripes one. I said I would go buy a DJ LeMahieu one. And sure enough, 6 years, DJ LeMahieu is going to retire a Yankee. So I went out and got a new pinstripe Yankee jersey. It fits real nice. So I just wanted to wear that today and celebrate the good news.
You got your WWE for people on XFLshow.com/YouTube. You have your WWE Universal title belt behind you, which I got you to buy in LA after about.
No, this is a different one. Remember, because I sold my old one.
That's not the one that we bought from Yard House where I had bought you the.
No.
Okay.
No. This is a one my sister got for me.
Okay. At one point in time when you could socially drink and hang out, and not have COVID.
Back in the days, Grandpa. Back in the days.
Yeah, but we drank like 3 yards of Shiner beer at Yard House, LA, and then walked into Staples Center and got Paul to buy one of those title belts.
And Nydia never stopped judging me for that, by the way. Just a heads up. Anyway. And also, I want to point out that also behind me, I got to rearrange my pointing area. I've also got, like the Photojournalist of the Year award in Miami. So we got to discuss those things too.
It's good. It's good. Some of us are nominated. Some of us have won. It's all equal in this world. I'm just going to say. We did get a really good review this week. I think it came on like literally as the episode aired, and we're going to talk all about episode airing and things happening. Platypus, it's spelt all weird on Podcast Addict. He said, we're a year away from getting the XFL back. Reed and Paul still keep me up to date with the news and hype for return. Plus, I get to learn about some other leagues. Cough. I told Patrick Dees we would like our commission check from Fan Control Football that I wouldn't have known about. The perfect balance of personalities that makes you feel like you're chilling with friends. As good as a good podcast should. Keep up the good work, guys. So thank you very much for that review. Nothing more delightful in my life than waking up to a review. XFLshow.com/review.
That's why you're giving away free masks, like they were like,
Well, back in the day,
Oprah, you were like Oprah with the mask. You're like, you get a mask, and you get a mask, and you get a gator. So we're happy to see more reviews. Also want to plug this too, XFLshow.com/merch. Log on, buy some like Reed's little XFL Markcast hoodie. Of course, we had to change the logo up. Everything's back up. Everything's back online. They're allowing us to add multiple products. So we'll have some more stuff up there soon. And XFLshow.com/merch. Support the show.
I did order. Do you see? I ordered another sweatshirt because I like to have. I'm kind of one of those, like, I wear the same thing for like a week, and so when I wash it, then it's like panic attack because I'm like, I need another sweatshirt. So now I have one that I can wear one while I'm washing one. I
can testify that there have been many times where he's worn his Royal Rumble jersey for like weeks. So it's good to see you getting some more merch, some more clothes in your closet.
But speaking of, Paul announced last week, we were doing the big giveaway for the Chad Ochocinco ball when we get 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. We got like 10 new subscribers this week. So thank you guys. Again, we get the views. We need the subscribers.
Yeah. I mean, I'm looking at the ratios here and I'm like seeing a lot of views, which is great. We appreciate that. but those need to transfer into subscribers as well because we want that ratio to even out. So if you please subscribe, we hit 1,000, we're going to give away. It's on its way. It's not here yet. Just to prove it, when it comes, I will show it, and we'll get one of you to win this lucky football from Chad Ochocinco autographed just for subscribing to the YouTube channel.
I was going to joke. Someone wrote, they said, well, maybe it could be a Houston Roughnecks ball, but it's already coming. You already hit up Chad and you already said that. Because I was going to say, maybe we could get a Houston Roughnecks ball signed by Chad Ochocinco. So no dice on that one. Sorry.
No dice on that one. Sorry. And speaking of the Houston Roughnecks, what do you think about this situation? Are they going to be able to have any logos? Are you just assuming they might drop the name completely?
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of we talked about it last week. XFL has until the end of February. And I got a couple notes at the top of the show here too. There's been a lot of talking this week about, timelines from last year to this year for the XFL. Last February 2nd, they announced that Bob Stoops was coming on. So that means that this year, it's not at all the same thing. Even the Houston Roughnecks, Jeffrey Pollock and The Rock and Danny are picturing the XFL, if all goes well, as a 50-year brand. Even with the Houston Roughnecks, do they care really about one team and the logo that was around for 9 months? Right? No. I mean, they can keep the name, but I do definitely think that it is not worth them at all to pay any licensing or royalties for those logos.
Just change the logos. It's easy enough. We understand. It's obvious what Vince was trying to do with the original XFL logos. We discussed that last week. He was trying to draw on that familiarity of the Patriots, of the Oilers. But it's time. Just fix the logos and change them up, and we're good to go.
That's why there's been a lot of talk this week at other XFL shows, Mark at News Hub. I've been hearing a lot of this, 2 years ago or 1 year ago, this thing happened this week, and it's not going to be the same thing again, at all. And we are assuming, February, right after the Super Bowl. It could be March. It could be April. It could not actually even be in 2022. That's what the goal is. But, this whole, it's going to mimic how it was last year, and they're going to do the summer showcase in June, and they're going to do this, and the draft's going to be in October. Maybe, but you can't live and die with that. And I get a lot of comments, and I get a lot of messages about that.
The virus is going to do what the virus is going to do. That's what we need. That's what needs to be focused on. This virus is going to do what it's going to do. We're seeing variants that are more contagious now than the original variants. This thing is going to do what it's going to do, and there's a good chance we'll always have to live with COVID. I need to be completely clear because there's so many people that don't trust the vaccine, and I understand concerns with the vaccine. I get it. The flu vaccine doesn't always work for the strain of flu. It's always 40% effective against the flu that comes out every year. This thing is 95% effective because it changes. And I don't want to get too political on the situation, but it changes the way your cells fight viruses. So if we can get to a point where herd immunity is possible with vaccinations and people having adequate antibodies, then maybe we can get back to life normal. But this virus is going to do what it's going to do. So let's not assume that everything is going to move on the same timeline that it's supposed to the last time around.
Yeah, honestly, in my day job, I do a lot of wedding stuff, and we have a lot of brides and grooms, booked August, September, October this year, and they're saying, this might not really be hitting until the fall when we start getting all these people. And same thing, we're trying to tell people, we just don't know, and this permeates into your job and my, everything, but we just don't know, and so please, with all of this stuff, if it's not matching the timeline this last time, it does not mean that it is a call for disaster or that it is. I think Mark Perry was we're getting into AAF territory if they don't start announcing stuff this week. And I'm I just don't think that, and I also think that Redbird and all of them have way more resources than even Vince did. Like I said before, Vince runs the WWE and ran the XFL like a one mom and pop shop on a national level. The Rock and them are going to run this like a multi-billion-dollar, that they run all their different stuff. They can launch a product at the snap of a fingers. They got the energy drink coming out. So anyway, that's my fear with that. One last talk about the logos. Zach did mention that we were talking about the Dragons and the University of Alabama at Birmingham, I guess, logo for the Dragons. He sent it over is exactly the same thing as the Dragons. So just people are curious, are other logos and things going to get infringed? I don't know.
I did notice that, and there is a lot of similarities, yes. And to that point, UAB actually shuttered their football program for a little bit and then brought it back, and they've been really good since they brought it back. So now, like, this brings up an interesting question. Did they just like blow up all the team names and just say, let's just avoid all of this altogether? And there are I'm sure Reed will be good enough to put the logos on the screen from UAB and the Seattle Dragons to show the discrepancy here, or not discrepancy, but the similarities. And this might be a situation where we just rename all the teams. So that merch behind you on that wall, except for the Kraken's flag, of course, that might be vintage merch. Well, except for the generic Seattle jersey that's autographed by everybody.
Brandon Silvers.
Chasing Nick, whatever.
I mean, this is like collector's item. I mean, we got Brandon Silver signed. I mean, this is like, hang that in a museum, man. It could be, and they blew out all the merch in, for Black Friday and all that stuff. I mean, I think they're keeping the teams, they're keeping the cities and all that stuff. But yeah, logos, team names, all that stuff is really up in the air. So the other, it's speaking of XFL and news, of course, every week, we post and then we miss. And last week, I think we literally hit end recording. We got off the call. Vince, alternate football scout, messaged me, hey, did you hear this thing about XFL looking for a CFO? And I'm like, and of course, other XFL shows build their entire episode around this, right? That falls in their laps. We produce this whole show and then have everything, we miss the whole thing.
It happens all the time.
What do you think about this? Them hiring a chief football officer. I don't want to get into. I mean, this is old news at this point, but I do want to get your thoughts, and I want to share. What do you think about them hiring a chief football officer and not like a commissioner?
I think it's the outside the box approach that they're doing. It's like going to be the same position, probably, they're just different names. And I think what they're trying to do is, like really emphasize that it's going to be about the game. So instead of having a commissioner always has a negative connotation to it. Like when there was a commissioner of the WWE, Jack Tunney, people booed him. Like you go back and watch the 1992 Royal Rumble where Ric Flair entered in spoiler alert, Ric Flair entered in almost 30-year-old Rumble, but spoiler alert, Ric Flair entered in number 3 and won the whole thing and won the title. When Jack Tunney came out and said the winner of the Royal Rumble is going to win the title, everybody was booing him. Rob Manfred. People don't like Rob Manfred because he protected the Astros as opposed to protecting the integrity of the game. People don't like Roger Goodell over the whole Ray Rice situation. A commissioner has a negative connotation to it. So maybe changing the name to chief football officer removes that potential negative connotation to the word commissioner.
The one concern I had is we are in end of January and this search has been going on for 2 months. Because that was the thing when it first came out, Vince messaged me, and I know Max, one of our listeners, he messaged me, goes, of course you guys missed this news. I go, yeah, but like we know that they're hiring people. We know that they're searching. We know that like all these things. I mean, yes, it's a big deal. It got ran with, right? It got some publicity. I think it's a big LA firm. It's like behind the search. It's like what they made fun of in like Entourage and stuff. It's like a big talent agency, right? But yeah, your connection is good. And but there's no surprise that this is going on, right? I mean, everybody knows, like, obviously The Rock and Danny are looking at hiring people. What is concerning is that this search has been going on for 2 months and they have not hired anybody yet. I would say that is concerning.
I don't think that's concerning. I think it's like if you, for example, me, I'm single, put that out there in the streets. I've been single probably about a year now, and I don't want to just settle on anyone. So maybe Rock and Danny just don't want to settle on anyone to fill that role. They want the right person. And maybe the right person, I don't know, is going to be eventually be Oliver Luck if the lawsuit gets settled in time. I don't think they can wait for that to happen. But maybe that's what they want to happen. But that's not realistic. So maybe they're just waiting for the right one. I wouldn't panic quite yet about this. I'm not there yet. Maybe in another 4 or 5 months, I'll be like, what are you guys doing? Are you guys going to hire someone? Because you said you're going to launch. And maybe I might become like the people that, say, what's up with the timeline? I might do that in maybe 4 or 5, 6 more months. But right now, I think they're just waiting for the right candidate to come along. Who knows who that's going to be?
Yeah, again, I just reframing all your expectations. I got in a long discussion with Max today on Twitter about, are players going to be coming back to the same teams? Are they going to be whatever? The XFL, again, if it goes in the scheme, even the hiring of this, if they're looking at a 30-year brand, everything that's happened so far is just a sliver of anything. And so they are going to keep the things that they want. They're going to do new things that they want. They're not going to be beholden to the way that Vince did it. Danny, and we have an article later, she was on Forbes, again, talking about this, like they have big visions for this. And if they have to lose the Roughnecks logo, if they're going to redraft teams, they might get all new coaches. It's not going to be a light switch flip on that everybody thought back a year ago or back in August, like, oh, The Rock bought it. They're just going to flip on the light switch and get everything going. Maybe they'll keep some stuff, but they're definitely going to do their own thing. And Danny has huge visions for this beyond just what it's been so far.
Someone else they actually did bring on was Russ Brandon, the former president of the Bills and Sabres, and I'm not sure you're familiar with this. This piqued my interest because I am aware of a situation that happened back in 2018 where he resigned as the president of the Bills and Sabres, being confronted with inappropriate relationship with a female employee.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, that happened. So there's a question mark here as to maybe have they done their vetting yet to make sure this was all on the up and up? I just know that this did happen. I can guarantee 100% this did happen. So Brandon stepped down because of the allegations of a inappropriate relationship with a female employee.
Well, and it says he's serving as an advisor. So, I mean, maybe he's not going to be, they're bringing him on as a consultant or something. But yeah, I mean, that definitely is. It's interesting. Vince, as we've talked about before with Manziel and everything, Vince was very against, colored pasts and things. And maybe The Rock and Danny, like you said, maybe they vetted this and figured out whatever. And I don't know all those circumstances, but they're wanting to find the right people. It's interesting that this has been going on for so long, and we are now presumably a year out, and it would be nice to know that, we have some hirings happening.
Exactly. Other XFL news, Pep Hamilton is apparently interviewing with the Steelers for their offensive coordinator job.
Couldn't do a worse job than this year.
I mean, let's be honest, dude. When people, the Steelers nation, the fans were like excited about their 11-0 start, I'm like, you guys are the worst 11-0 team in history. Like, you guys haven't played anyone. You got a lot of luck on your side. I don't know why you're bragging about being 11-0 right now. When they got to the playoffs, the Browns waxed them. They waxed them hard.
Well, yeah, waxed them, and then I mean,
they waxed them before and then waxed them in the playoffs.
They couldn't run the ball. Steelers couldn't run the ball. It's good for Pep. I mean, look at him. He went from DC Defenders, was in LA with all that. Anthony Lynn now, right, is with the Lions. They got rid of him. And then, I mean, I definitely think, this shows, same with the players. The reps that a lot of these guys and girls got in the XFL is really setting the stage for, I don't think Pep would be in this position, interviewing for this had it not have been the couple steps he had just had in the last year with the XFL and everything else.
Right. More Steelers news on that note. Dwayne Haskins has signed with the Steelers.
Yeah, for no guarantee, or all the guarantees have been paid is like $850,000 for the year. So I mean, it's not a big gamble, but interesting that he got picked up so quick.
It is, and I'll tell you why. Art Rooney has said today that Roethlisberger wants to come back for his 18th season, but there's going to be something called a salary cap hit on his contract. So that's going to count $41 million against their cap in terms of bringing Ben back. So there's a good chance that Dwayne Haskins might play. He might start next year for the Steelers.
What's Tommy Maddox? What's the name of the backup that played against the Browns?
Are you thinking Tommy Maddox?
Is that right?
Dude, that's like XFL 1.0 stuff.
No, Steelers backup. He was one that played against the when the Browns beat him.
I think no, it wasn't him.
Yeah, Tommy Maddox, Pittsburgh Steelers.
Dude, it's not Tommy Maddox. Look up Tommy Maddox. Tell me when he played.
He is a former football player. He
was the original LA XFL quarterback. He's like 50 years old.
Hang on,
Browns, how is he going to play
versus Steelers game? I'm serious, man. This is great.
It wasn't Tommy Maddox. Tommy Maddox was an old Steelers quarterback, an old one. dude. Yeah, Tommy Maddox, like a long time ago.
Mason Rudolph. That's what I was thinking of. Mason Rudolph.
Maddox. Wow.
So, Mason Rudolph. What's he doing? If Dwayne Haskins is coming in, what's
That's a good question because Mason Rudolph was, let's see, when did they pick him? They picked him out of Oklahoma State. I believe it was, what round was that they picked him up at? Looking here real quick, round 3 in 2018, they picked up Mason Rudolph out of Oklahoma State. So there's going to be a little bit of a battle there, and I don't really think they're going to bring Ben back. 18 years, 17 years.
Yeah, he's pretty.
I think he's done.
I mean, and the whole reason we talk about this is because of Dwayne Haskins, from the Washington football team with Taylor Henneke and all that. It was funny today on Good Morning Football. They were talking about, Brady getting to the Super Bowl and, he beat Drew Brees at home. He beat Aaron Rodgers at home. Don't forget, he beat Taylor Henneke. Don't forget that he beat Taylor Henneke. So never forget one of the greats that Tom Brady beat on his way to his 10th Super Bowl was Taylor Henneke. So
wow.
Anyway, but yeah, Dwayne's with the Steelers, so who knows?
And to put this in perspective, when you talk about all-time Super Bowl appearances, the Patriots have 11 all-time Super Bowl appearances, and 9 of those are with Brady. So Brady almost has just as many Super Bowl appearances, and I know he played for the Patriots. I get that. But if he were to come back again and lead Tampa to the Super Bowl again next year, Brady would have 11 and the Patriots would have 11. So that's interesting in itself. And of course, we here at the Markcast, I'm sure there are receipts. Reed told me there's some receipts. We said the Buccaneers would not get to the Super Bowl. Thanks for proving me wrong.
Yeah, I skipped over this at the beginning. I did want to ask you general thoughts on the Super Bowl this year. Are you excited for Mahomes versus Brady?
I am, and I don't want to make a prediction because I mean, there's going to be one of two things happens. Either people are going to have the narrative that Brady was only effective because Belichick was there, or people are going to have the narrative that Belichick was only effective because Brady was there. One of the other. And as much as I would like to see like someone like Patrick Mahomes start he's already a superstar. Yeah, he's already making bank. He's got a baby on the way. He's going to get married. He's already got a great situation.
Must be nice. Must be nice.
Must be nice. It must be nice to be Patrick Mahomes. You sound like Kermit. Must be nice. I don't want to root against Patrick Mahomes, but the only reason I'm going to is because your brother's TikTok dances, Patrick, are ridiculous. That's why I'm rooting for Brady this time around. I'm hoping Brady brings home another ring, and we could solidify this argument because people are still saying that Brady's not the GOAT. I think he is. Yeah, I think he is the GOAT. And I think this would satisfy the argument that Brady is the greatest of all time.
It's just funny because, I was rooting for the Browns. We watched them lose. I was rooting for the Bills. We watched them lose. And, Dorothy was asking because she goes, man, this was a terrible day of football, because the Packers lost and the Bills lost. I said, as someone that watched the WWE for 20 years, right, I'm used to like my guys not getting the wins, right? But normally it's because it's a 70-year-old man that's like, I hate what my fans think. I'm going to put over the same people over and over again, right? Or at least this is like real life, right? The Bills lost, Baker Mayfield couldn't get it done with the Browns. So at least it's real life in competition because I'm very used to not having, the person that I want to win or be champion. So that was kind of my thoughts on that.
And Joe Buck during the telecast kept saying, well, if the Buccaneers win, they'll be the first road team to win 3 games to go to the Super Bowl. And that is not true. The 85 Patriots, 05 Steelers, the 07 Giants all did it too. So Joe Buck, I don't know where you're getting your stats from, but that is wrong. But we do want to point out, because they pointed out 6,000 times, whatever. They pointed out 28,000 times during the telecast that if Tampa Bay won, they'd be playing the Super Bowl at home. First team to ever do that. If they're playing at home, do they get treated like the home team? Are they going to fire the cannons off when they score?
That's a big question.
Good questions.
My thing though is so many of those guys have been brought in this year. If you're a Buccaneers fan, are you really excited about that? I mean, I guess, right?
I got a friend at work who is stoked. He's an Alabama fan. And he's a Tampa Bay fan because Alabama doesn't have a pro football team.
He's probably a Vipers fan too, right? Hopefully.
And he was a Tampa Bay fan before they got good. So I don't, don't accuse him of being a bandwagoner. He was a Tampa Bay fan. He was like really hoping Jameis Winston would work out. Didn't work out. And it didn't work out at all. And now he's really excited because now he's like, oh my gosh, I could be on the verge of like having 2 championship football teams. And he's been excited. And shout outs to him for, sticking it through, because Tampa's had some rough times since Chucky left. So, yeah.
Bruce Arians would be 68, oldest coach ever to win a Super Bowl.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And so now the WWE, of course, is going to hold WrestleMania there.
It's all connected.
It's all connected because McMahon's and DeSantis are like this. They're best friends forever. And that's cool that they took LA's away.
Did you see? So I put this in here about Panthers with PJ Walker, right? And this kind of goes into where, Deshaun Watson came out today, as of recording, that he is, formally requesting the trade from the Houston Texans. They have talked a lot about potentially Carolina being the place for him to land, among others. I mean, it's a very crowded field of where he's going to go. But then today, or a couple of days ago, I had a tweet from the Panthers new general manager that just got brought in, asking about, the team and evaluating, the players. He goes, "We will be in on every deal, but before we do anything outside, I need to find out who we have here." Is he going to find PJ Walker?
You would hope so.
That's a really long about way to ask that.
You would hope so. You would hope that maybe he'd find PJ Walker, and I don't know what their financial situation is with Max Greer. Will Greer. I'm sorry, not Max Greer. Will Greer. But then they also have the $20 million question. There's a $20 million elephant in the room.
Yeah.
What are they going to do with Teddy?
Well, I
don't see Deshaun Watson landing with Carolina. I see him landing with a team like maybe the Jets. Probably the Jets.
Yeah,
I think the Jets are the most likely candidate. They've got a new coach. They got a new energy. Giants fans seem to be in on Daniel Jones right now, so I think that's okay. The Jets don't really have that guy, and they've got a great new coach with Robert Saleh.
And he loves Deshaun said that he loves Robert. Like
Robert's a great coach. Yeah. I mean, his defenses in San Francisco, as Seattle fans that we are, we know how dominating those defenses are. That guy's going to turn the Jets around. You laugh at the Jets now. You laugh at the Jets for all the things they did. They blew the first round overall pick. You laugh at them now. You're not going to be laughing in like 2 or 3 years.
No.
The Jets are going to be a force. Of course, the Bills are going to be there too. And the Dolphins. Deshaun could land in Miami too. There's a possibility of that as well, because while Tua's great, if you have a chance to trade Tua and some picks to get someone who's more seasoned, more experienced, you do it. So I think Deshaun Watson is going to land in the AFC East no matter what. It just matters if it's going to be the Jets or Dolphins, not with Carolina.
No. Well, anyway, I just was curious about that. Anytime I see anything with, the Panthers, it piques my interest because of PJ. I know I think he's got a 2-year deal there, but it just, they got the 8th round in the draft. They're talking to all these other QBs. It's just interesting to see, if he just winds up sitting there as another backup quarterback.
I'm going to throw out another possible landing spot for Deshaun Watson, New Orleans.
Yeah, I mean, because they need Taysom Hill is not the future of that.
Neither is Jameis Winston.
No.
And Drew Brees, I think that's it for him. Yep. He's had a great career. I think it's interesting that Phillip Rivers has announced his retirement before Drew Brees did, because they drafted Eli. Then Eli went on and cried and said he's going to sue, and they traded Eli for Phillip Rivers. And Phillip Rivers was supposed to be the heir apparent and take over for Brees, because they thought Brees wasn't going to be the guy in San Diego, which is now the LA Chargers. They let Brees go and made Phillip the guy, and Phillip has retired before Drew Brees has.
Yeah.
So maybe a Deshaun Watson landing spot is New Orleans. And if it happens to happen, if he happens to go to New Orleans, we've got to pull the receipts on this episode.
Okay. I had a question for you about this NBC shutting down NBC Sports. You know way more about all the TV landscape for that than I do. I mean, do you have any thoughts? Does this affect an XFL TV deal?
I don't think it does, because the regionals are not getting shut down. And the reason why I know the regionals are not getting shut down is a person you and I both know, Cassine, works at Cassine Gibson, works with the Bay Area Regional Sports Networks. So these regional networks are not being shut down at all. It's going to be a situation where it's just the national NBC sports network. So we could still have the XFL deal in place. There's also Peacock that's going to be running some of the national stuff, like the NHL contracts the NBC has. The Peacock's going to be running that. I know you say, not trying to make Peacock happen. Let's not make this happen. But Peacock is happening whether you like it or not. Like, they've got The Office now. They've got a lot of their NBC properties back. They've got
WWE.
They've got the Premier. They get the WWE networks on Peacock. They've got the Premier League. A lot of soccer fans love British soccer. They've got the Premier League on Peacock. it's a very real possibility that XFL could tie into that and latch their boat onto that. Maybe that would smooth the waters between. I feel like there's some animosity here between Vince and The Rock. I really do, and maybe this smooths the waters just a little bit between the two parties, to where if the XFL landed with NBC, it would be a good spot on Peacock.
It's so weird, and I know this is an XFL podcast, but they're paying $1 billion for the WWE Network stuff, right? They paid $1 billion for the Raw and SmackDown. It was like $450 and $550 combined. They sold a couple years ago for the TV, and it's so funny to me. Like nobody's watching WWE. The ratings are in the tank. I mean, I know they get like 1.8 million viewers or whatever, but I mean, just for what they the heights that they used to go to, even a couple years ago, getting 4, 5, 6 million. And I was like, okay, well, nobody watches this, but now we're going to pay for it again. And now it's going to be on our streaming service. And then maybe people will watch it, right? Isn't that weird? It's like they're paying for this thing twice. And it's like nobody watches it on NBC, but yet they're going to watch it on the Peacock network.
I mean, a lot of people do watch the Hulu replays. And basically, I think the only reason people at this point, they're saving me $10.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I have someone else's login for the network. Oops.
Yeah.
But
Michael
that means I already pay for Peacock because I want the Premier League games. So now I get my Attitude Era content, and I don't feel so dirty giving the WWE my money because I'm actually giving it to NBC. So it's a win-win for me. And I'm just sitting here wondering now at the situation, why are they just going to give the pay-per-views away on the Peacock network? Why aren't they just going to go? Why wouldn't they do? ESPN wanted to get in on this, and they wanted to have that UFC type model where you had ESPN Plus for $5.99 a month. But if you wanted a UFC pay-per-view, you'd pay the extra $50 or whatever it is. I don't know. I've never paid for a UFC pay-per-view. If you wanted that pay-per-view, you'd pay the extra money. So I don't understand why the WWE didn't go with that model. That's confusing to me.
Well, I think that they have not charged full price for pay-per-views for so long, right? Because the network, it's included and all that. It's very hard to, once they did that, you get all the pay-per-views for $9.99 a month. It's very hard to go back to, would you like to pay $50 for this? It's like, well, no, I just got it. My friend's login, I get it for free. Or I pay $10 a month and I get it.
I honestly think there's going to be a situation that comes about where you'll have everything on the network, but if you want that first week run of the pay-per-view, you'll have to pay an additional premium. I think that's where it's going to go. I really do. The Peacock's going to be like, we need to make money on these pay-per-views. These are supposed to be big events.
But you don't think that, to get back to so you don't think NBC Sports and all that is, because NFL, I think the divisional games were down ratings too, right? There was some concern they were down like 7% or whatever. There's no concern about XFL getting the potential TV deal with all this going on.
No, I don't think at all. I think we're good. I honestly think that that no matter what, even if it's ESPN, they're still going to get a great deal, and I don't think this is going to affect anything. Okay. I really don't.
I mean, I would just say go to like Prime or something and just do it on there. I mean, I wouldn't even mess with like broadcast at all. But
Prime is showing in the Seattle market. Prime is showing Sounders games no matter what. And that's a possibility too, and that may be a model for everyone to move to. Like, you have some prime NFL games that happen. Maybe MLS goes that route. It's a good way to expand the audience as opposed to just hoping the match is on ESPN Plus. Sometimes it's not. Who knows? This could open things up in terms of having more over the top services, and now that they've mastered the craft of having live sports on these over-the-top services, because these things used to only be for on-demand situations, and now they've finally figured out how to do live sports on them. So maybe this is where everything tends to go.
Yeah, and even like that, they had the NFL one this year. It was the 49ers Cardinals, whatever, on that one Saturday, and like you could, they had all these different stats, and you could have like alternative commentators and stuff. I mean, it allows them to do more things to give you options to watch it, right? Like I think they had an all-female announced team, and they had different languages and stuff, but doing that versus just having it on like NBC or whatever, there are benefits to it, besides just whatever else.
Right. The inactive XFL accounts lost their verification. You noticed this.
This was, I yeah, I'm trying to, I can't remember who tweeted me about this. Big freak out on Friday. All the XFL verified accounts, Oliver Luck, everybody lost their verifications. They're back now. It went through Twitter because of, I think, the Trump thing and the Section 230 and all that. And they're really getting down on the verifications. And so if you had an inactive Twitter account, which a lot of them are, obviously the XFL ones, a lot of them lost their verifications and now they're back. But it was a big freak out on Friday with Jake Henry. There you go. Jake Henry was the one that texted. People say like, oh my God, the Seattle Dragons isn't verified. Does that mean that? It doesn't mean that they're not. It just means that, but it is concerning if you have a list of all the XFL teams and you only see a couple of them verified. So
that's a tip to you. I know you don't, I know you use XFL Mark Twitter account. You should probably use the Reed Johnson account. It's verified.
I use both. Yeah.
I want to consider using that a little bit more. Oliver Luck, was he verified or?
He was, and Luck is off now, which would make sense because I don't think he's using Oliver Luck XFL, whatever. But Oliver Luck isn't verified, but all the other ones are. So
awesome.
This last note, Danny had another big article this week on Forbes.com talking about, as a business owner, as a female, and kind of whatever that means. And they were asking about the XFL again, which is good. I mean, again, having The Rock and Danny and all these people involved, when they credit her now, right? It says Danny Garcia, $7 production, and Terramana Tequila, female owner, XFL, the only female owner of a sports team. She said they were asking her about the XFL, and she said, take the XFL. Football is a sport absent of the idea of taking care of everybody involved or responsibility for how that experience is to the fan or the audience. All of my passion, perspective, and expertise is to take care of people. It's advancing the human experience. So the XFL, it's the largest scale opportunity I have to utilize everything I've done today to impact people in amazing ways, to really get in there, create incredible gameplay, and deliver excellence in football. Also, the female interpretation of that. And so that's when I get back to when people are like, well, do you think they're going to bring the Roughnecks logo back? Like, Danny doesn't care about that. Danny is way bigger ideas than are they going to do training camp again in December in Houston or whatever they did last time?
Danny's playing chess. Those ideas about the logo and stuff, those are checkers. It's like Danny's playing chess. She's playing the long game.
So I just thought there was a note. I mean, Forbes.com, big website, big platform there. We have more Forbes news later with the Fan Control Football and all of that. But they've got way bigger ideas than are we going to sign back Brandon Silvers to the Dragons or whatever? No disrespect. They don't care about that kind of stuff right now.
They don't.
Way bigger picture. So that's what I got for XFL. We got going on to Fan Control Football after the break, maybe.
We got to take a break real quick, pay some bills for a distributor here who graciously pumps out the podcast to all the networks that you download them on. We'll be back with some Fan Control Football news.
And Greg Miller. We're big time interview coming up.
Greg Miller coming up.
Thanks.
And we're back talking about Fan Control Football. Got Greg Miller coming up.
Very exciting. Very excited. I'm watching the clock nervously. We have Greg going to join us, and we'll plug all this in. But very excited for that. Greg, one of the team owners, finally getting some team ownership on here. I'll tell you, the news really blew up this week. Greg blew up the fan controlled stuff online. And then yesterday, Wednesday, as of recording, was the biggest news dump day in the history of the world with Fan Control Football announcing via Forbes that fans can invest in the teams. They released the rule book. They updated the website. They added the games to this calendar. Richard Sherman came out and did an interview. There's a ton of stuff. And so this is what I'm going to say. And Van, our number one fan, did a post on Facebook about it. This might not be for everybody, right? Fan Control Football, and we're going to get into the rules. And some of these are really weird, right? And I don't know what this is, right? I was trying to talk with Dorothy about this. It's it's not football. It's kind of like basketball. It's not baseball and it's not basketball. It's basketball. It's a totally different thing, but it's coming up in a couple weeks. They got a big platform. They got a ton of money behind it. And so if you need something to watch on Saturdays here coming up for the next month and a half, I think there are worse ways that you could spend your time. So, they're trying some new stuff. So that's kind of where we're at. I want to get into the rules with Paul and everything, but it's definitely not going to be for everybody.
I want to discuss this investment thing, and I have concerns. I do have concerns.
And I talked with Patrick, so I have hopefully some answers. So
Okay.
so the teams, they announced yesterday that you can invest via this reputable like Republic, whatever website. You can invest and it's 3% of these teams. So the Beasts, Wild Aces, Zappers, and the Glacier Boys, who suck. And they're valuing these teams at $7.5 million a piece. And then 3% of that, they're making open to you can invest like $100 or $1,000 as an individual that you can have a piece of the team. So Paul, what say you to that?
Are they in trouble? Are they in financial trouble?
Is that your thought?
That's my question.
So I'm gonna say no, and I know what that looks like, and that is what I've heard from other people too. I do believe this has always been part of the plan. I think I don't know why they waited until so close to the season to announce it, right? Because the window for investment is I believe it's 92 days from today, and so that puts they're trying to get people in, and so that puts you well past the first season of this league. But I did some research this morning, and I have all the investment pages up. So far, the Beasts have, and this is of recording, they have 91 investors to the tune of $34,500. The Zappers have 37 investors to the tune of $12,700. Glacier Boys have 42 investors, $12,000, and then the Wild Aces have, sorry, I had my thing all scrolled down, 71 investors for $24,000. So we are not talking chump changer.
No, not at all. And I mean, maybe to the counterpoint to my question is it's only 3% of the teams. It's not that like they're putting up 50% of the teams for people to buy. It's only like a 3% thing. So I'm wondering if I'm wondering where the capital is going that they're raising from this. I wonder why they need this money. Maybe it's just me being too skeptical, and that could be potentially what it is. It's a mere 3%. It's not like you're offering more than 10%. It'd be curious to know where the capital is going that these people are investing in these teams. That's all.
Yeah, my biggest thing, and Patrick really wanted me to know because he misinterpreted something. Because I'm very excited. If you're into this league, we will not be investing. I feel like besides anything else, as an independent media operation that we are, we should not be investing in any teams if it's a thing that, right.
And I put out the tweet. I'm like, hey, if Miro comes on, the coward comes on, I'll invest. I got to pull that back because I just, we bring up a valid point that we can't invest in this.
Yeah. I mean, just like, honestly, besides anything else, whatever, but if you are excited about this, believe me, Markcast is nothing but love, but anyway, Patrick misinterpreted something that I tweeted, and he messaged me, he goes, well, you seem negative about this, or you seem like, are you saying that people, and I said, absolutely not. I said, if people are excited about this, if they want to be a part of this, I know that Matt, one of the guys that works for me, that turned us on to the whole fan control football, he has invested in the Wild Aces. He is very excited. Patrick wants people to know that it's not like Green Bay. It's not a certificate. Okay, we own part of the team. This is a real investment. My question along to you is, it's 3% of the team. So let's say there's 10,000 people that all donate or whatever, or not donate, but buy in. So of those 10,000 people or 5,000 people or 42 people own 3% of that. So doesn't that get diluted? I don't know how investments work.
Okay, so basically, they're saying 3%. Let's try to boil this down. Let's say there are at 3%. Let's say there are 1 million shares of the crappy Glacier Boys. There are 1 million shares of the crappy Glacier Boys. 3% of 1 million shares is, do the math, 30,000 shares? 30,000 shares. So what you're basically doing is you're like, okay, 30,000 shares are available and they're priced at $50 a share. So if you donate $100, you're basically getting 2 shares. If you give $1,000, you're getting 20 shares. And that's how it's boiling out. So it is diluted in a percentage way. So the more you invest into it, the more you technically should get back if there's a profit. how are they going to calculate profits?
Well, and that was my thing. And I actually did do I really tried to read through all the pages and stuff today about everything. They claim that, so the pages, basically it kind of works like it says, if you ask on the Republic investing page, how do I get my return? And it links you to this, what are membership units / interest in LLC? And so basically the idea, I think, is if they ever sell it, but I don't think they're ever selling it. So I don't know how you get your return. I asked Patrick, he said that, I said, well, do they get like a share of the merchandise? Do they get a share of money that way? And he goes, yes, they will. So maybe they're still working on those things. But again, 10,000 people or 5,000 people, of 3% of a t-shirt sold, I mean, I still think it might not be a ceremonial like certificate like Green Bay, but it does feel a little more that way than something where you're going to get money back tomorrow, if that makes sense.
Correct. That's, they probably just working out the kinks here and there. So games are going to be Saturday at 5 p.m. and 6 p.m. Eastern. The Wild Aces are going to take on the crappy Glacier Boys first. That apparently is the first game.
Glacier Boys are going to be the first 0-1 team in fan control history. So I think that is exciting. The other thing, they added all the rules. And so if you go, Vince, All Football Scout on Twitter, he was on last week. He has, he kind of broke down a lot of the rules. He's got, the link to the rule book. You can go to the Fan Control Football webpage. Some of these rules, there's going to be no backup QBs. The second quarterback drafted per team each week is going to have to play every third possession. That stuck out to me. We're not going to go through all these rules, but that stuck out to me. What do you think about that?
That's kind of like a hockey thing where it's like, you can only use your hockey goalie, like I think every 3 games. And then in the 4th game, you have to switch out goalies unless there's an injury issue. That's kind of like that kind of issue. So I like that idea. I like that idea a lot.
We've already known this. There's no punting. There's no kicking. There's no field goals. There's nothing. There's no special team kicking at all. You're going to get the ball, like at the 10-yard line and then go. The interesting thing about that is for extra points, it's going to be, again, this is why this isn't going to be for everybody, but it's going to be like a center, a QB, like defense, and then there's going to be like a wide receiver. There's going to be like 5 or 6 players on the field, and it's going to be like a bonus, to get the bonus point or whatever. And you're trying to like get the pass in to get a 1-point thing. Does that make sense how I'm explaining that?
It does. If you go from the 5, it's like a 2-point conversion no matter what. But if you go from the 5, it's 1 point. Go for the 10-yard line, it's 2 points.
The thing with a lot of these rules that I voiced concern about to Dorothy yesterday, because I told Patrick, I said, I don't have a problem with this investment thing. I do think people are going to have a problem with some of these rules. The XFL, when they came up with their rules, 25-second play clock as opposed to 40-second play clock, the kickoffs being different. These are things that they worked on for months and months and months and months and months. They worked with it with the spring league. They worked with it with Your Call Football. They worked with it with the training camps. Months went into figuring out, okay, how are we going to take a 40-second play clock and take it down to 25? Because you think, okay, that's a really big deal, right? And so I look at some of these rules, where they're going to spot the ball. There's going to be a running clock. There's no punt, so you can like flip the field to give the team the ball going the other way if you don't get all the way down there. The onside kicks are going to be voted on. There's a lot of these things. Delay of game. There's no delay of game penalties. But if you fail to snap the ball prior too many times, then the league is going to have disciplinary measures for you, right? Like some of these things, I'm like, this is a lot of different changes where I feel like I got back to the basketball. Like at the beginning of that movie, do you remember basketball?
Yep.
And they're like, oh, well, that's not how that works because this is this and I'm going to do this. That's a little bit what it feels like. They're going to be, you can do things on social media during the week to get an extra timeout for your team. That's a big deal. Things like this these aren't minor tweaks, right?
These are like moving the goalpost, for lack of a better analogy, in terms of like the Johnny Manziel thing. Like they said, no franchise players. And all of a sudden there was franchise players. They keep changing the rules on the fly. Next thing you know, people are going to be saying Steve Perry at each other and spitting water.
It just, again, it's not going to resemble football And I guess that's my thing, because I was talking with Dorothy. Maybe it didn't need to be called fan control football. Maybe it needed to be called fan control squash ball or whatever you want to call it, Huh?
Something different.
Yeah, poop stain ball. I don't know. That's Dorothy and I's always are.
Poop main ball?
Yeah, the poop main ball. I mean, and not to, but like to call it, because when you're calling it fan control football, my fear is people are going to turn on this show on Saturday, February 13th and go, I don't know what this is.
Yep.
I'm not saying it's not going to be good.
And people do that with, whatchamacallit? People do that with, they did that with arena football. Like, what is this? It doesn't look like football, even though arena football closely resembles football, more closely resembles football than what we're seeing here. People were kind of intrigued by that and go, well, this isn't really football.
And I think, yeah, if this had been more like arena football, I do think it would have been maybe a little bit more accessible. That's my fear. I don't know who this is for. Vince, alternate football guy, this is a guy that he thought this league was designed for him, really is doing all the stats and everything. He is a little turned off by some of this, right? He goes, obviously I'm still in it for the players, but they're talking about microtransactions and paying for power-ups and getting things online during the week. And can you vote and take away a down from another team? And can you have the extra timeout? All of these things, I don't know who this is for at that point.
Yeah, there's so many questions. I don't know. There's so many questions.
I mean, and again, it's fine. And I think I'm going to watch it. We're going to cover it. I think it's going to be, I'm not saying it's not going to be fun and good and whatever, but this is definitely like alternative football thing versus like the XFL.
Speaking of Vince, he broke down all the rosters. For anyone interested, you could just go to his Twitter. What is his Twitter account?
All Football Scout Report on Twitter. He's got breakdowns of every single player on the league, like their whole history, like where they played high school, where they played college, all this different stuff, all the stats, everything else. A couple other things, we can get rid of some of this stuff. They announced the hashtags. We had talked about voting on that. What do you think? Zap 'em for the Zappers, Aces Wild for the Wild Aces, Iced Out for the Glacier Boys, and then Beast Mode Beat Down, or Beast Mode Be at Down, which is how I read it.
That's the worst one. It's so wordy. Like Zap 'em, Ace, and maybe they should have gone with Aces Wild, not the Aces Wild.
Yes.
Some of these hashtags are a little bit wordy. You want something concise and quick as your hashtag. So Zap 'em and Iced Out works. The Aces Wild and Beast Mode Beatdown is a little bit too many words, but
you're using those Twitter characters. You got to have a nice short hashtag. They did apparently, this is according to Fan Control Football News. I haven't heard this from the league. He did say there was a positive COVID case in the bubbles. Close contacts had to quarantine. All the other players have been practicing. Again, I haven't seen anything from the league, but Fan Control Football News, that's another Twitter account, came out with that. And that's interesting. It's going to happen. It depends on how they, handle that. But that is interesting that they had a COVID outbreak that way.
Yep. And today, I guess there was another combine. Am I reading that correctly?
This was, sorry. Today, when I posted on here a couple days ago, people are still trying out for this league, right? Which, again, with the rules and the large scale changes to the game, February 13th is 17 days away or whatever, right? I mean, we got the Super Bowls in 10 days and then another 7 days, 16. So I guess 16 days as of the thing dropping, this episode dropping, but you're going to be bringing in new players. They have to be quarantined. I mean, there are many, many moving pieces on this right now. And especially with the investments. I mean, I'm just surprised all this is coming out in January.
Yeah, me too. Interesting. And I'm now like, I'm trying to process all the changes they've made to the rules and everything. It's like, this is not resembling what I think it's going to resemble when I first, was told about it. And I think that's probably like, I'm in a space right now. I'm in like a zone right now and I'm dazed out because I'm just trying to process everything.
Yeah. I mean, I do, like I said, we're going to watch it. I do think it's really hard to wrap your head around a lot of this stuff. I'm just going to watch it because like there's going to be all this fan voting and there's supposed to be a bunch of different Twitch shows and things that are coming out. Like they got the schedule. They released all this stuff. It's all on the website, Fan Control Football, but they released like, Monday they're going to do a behind the scenes thing, and Tuesday they're going to do a thing with the coaches, and Wednesday they're going to do. They are really like going all in. They've built a set down there. They've got the arena. There's no shortage of ideas. I just don't know if we needed all of this the first year.
Yeah.
Last thing, and then we get rid of all this other stuff. They did release new merch. They got hats. They have.
You're happy about that?
I want a different. I have a problem with the hat, but they're releasing a gaming chair, right? Like, because it's a gaming league, right? So I will say, I'm not going to advise you to invest in any of these teams. If you're going to spend $450 on the gaming chair, I would rather buy 3 shares of literally any team than a $450 leather gaming chair. No offense.
Or if you really want to spend $450, invest in like crypto, like Dogecoin. Had to plug that there.
Yeah, is that how you say it? Dogecoin.
Dogecoin, yeah.
Dogecoin. Okay.
Big proponent of Dogecoin. It jumped dramatically today. So Reed has some Dogecoin. I have some Dogecoin. We're very happy about that.
Yeah, he's gonna be. I think that's it. Sherman finally was promoting. We got Greg here, right? We're gonna plug him in after this. So we're gonna ask Greg about a lot of this stuff. He is waking up isn't the right word, but it seems like he is trying to kind of rally some of these teams now and calling. Oh, here he is, right here. We were just talking about him. He's got his XFL shirt and everything.
It's an XFL 1.0 shirt too.
You know it is. Never forget. Come on, you kidding me? I went to 3 out of 5 Chicago Enforcer live games at Soldier Field in Chicago, Illinois. You kidding me? You think I got ready to this stuff?
We don't even need to edit the episode. This is you literally just popped in. As I live and breathe, Greg Miller himself. I'm so excited. I am a long time fan here. I'm very genuinely excited that you're on here. Thank you so much.
Oh my God, Reed. Thanks so much for having me. Thanks for having me, Paul.
We appreciate your time. Definitely taking some time out from the busy schedule. How's everything going so far for you? I want to ask, how are you doing in the pandemic?
Oh man, the pandemic. I forget who I stole it from now from being on a Kind of Funny show, but grading on the 2021 curve, I'm doing pretty well. You know what I mean? Like, we're all in the same boat, I think, with the pandemic of, as soon as it started, my wife Jen was like, humans are the most adaptable, but what it means is that you adapt so quickly, you don't have time to think about it. And so it took me a long time in 2020 to be like, those days where I'd wake up angry and I'd be like, nothing is wrong. Like, I have the job's great. I'm going to play this game. Oh, I'm angry because my year's been stolen from me. And but it's that thing where everyone's year got stolen from them. So you kind of check those feelings at the door and you don't process them, I think, the appropriate way. But overall, really well. You know what I mean? We've been very, very lucky that we're able to pivot the business. Me and my wife are healthy. Everything's been going fine on that front.
Yeah, because so much of what you guys do is, digital, online, streaming, all these things. I would have to think of anybody to be set up to thrive in a pandemic. Someone that's doing everything virtually like this would have to be, it's still difficult, but less so maybe.
Totally. For me, it was, I think I would like to think all the listeners and viewers are on the same page, but like, I was definitely naive at the start where my concern was that, oh my gosh, like, if you're worried about your job, if you're a server and you're losing your hours, if your place of business is being closed by this, I was concerned we were going to see Patreon numbers, which is our crowdfunding platform, drop. I was concerned we were going to see viewership fall away because I know that like our podcasts and videos are distraction content. Usually, you listen at work, on your drive, your commute. And when you screw up in the routine, things have to fall away. And so I was really terrified as it started for our job and business, thinking that was going to happen, but it was actually the opposite. And people flocked to it and found more comfort. And people came back that had been, it had gone the other way where their routine had changed. They hadn't listened to us or watched us in years. They came back because they wanted to be around their best friends. And, suddenly not having someone at work or to go get a beer with to talk about video games, people wanted to come back to people they knew would be doing that.
Yeah, so I remember because I worked in news for a long time, and I had quit my job and was starting my video company right around the same time you guys all made that first leap to Patreon. And I remember thinking like, I did feel, as a listener, right? Like, we're kind of in this together, right? Let's see. And then, the success you guys have had, from an outside, I obviously don't know all the whatever, but truly astounding, right? Did you ever anticipate anything as big when you guys, were trying to figure out what you were going to do next?
Under no circumstance. You know what I mean? thing I learned really quickly was we had no idea what we were doing in a good way. Where it was, when we left, I remember leaving IGN to start Kind of Funny. And, Kevin Coella, who had been working with us at IGN, and he was Tim's lifelong friend, but he'd been helping us in off hours with Kind of Funny when we were still doing it as a side project. And so when we left, he stayed at IGN, and we were like, listen, man, like, give us a year. Give us a year to get going, and we will double back, and we will hire you, and it'll be great. And it was a month and a half where we were like, we can't do all this work, and there's enough support right now. We have enough to bring him on part-time. Let's get it going. We're able to bring him in and never lose him. And I think, it's the same way of like, I remember thinking, we started in a spare bedroom, and okay, we'll get our own space. Maybe 2 years, maybe 4 years. We did that in a year and a half where we were like, we will murder each other if we have to keep working out of this spare bedroom. And you went and got it. And now you look at us, right? And, we're celebrating our 6th year this January. And, we're 11 full-time employees, a slew of contractors that are both part-time hosts and graphic producers and editors and all these different things. Like, it's above and beyond my wildest dreams.
Very cool. Congratulations on all
Thank
that.
you. And on top of that, I own a football team.
That's what we want to bring you to talk about. How did this all get started for you getting involved in this?
Sure. So have you guys talked? Has Pat been on the show yet?
Yeah.
Dee's been on the show yet?
Yeah.
Like, Dee's is a lot like you, Reed, where he was a Kind of Funny best friend. He was an old IGN listener. Like, he knew me through that. And what it would have been Game Awards 2018. That sounds right. Oh, Game Awards back, maybe 2017. Doesn't matter. At a Game Awards, he came up to me beforehand and was like, hey, I'm a huge fan. I've listened to your stuff forever. And I had my own battle with cancer recently. And I found a lot of solace going back and listening to your content about your struggle with cancer. Because if you didn't know, in 2012, I had Hodgkin's lymphoma stage 2 and had to go through that. And I went through it very publicly and shared my story. And so we had that moment. Like, there's that thing I find with people who are going through cancer, have done it, and somehow involved me in their story where, like, there's a, like everything fades away. It doesn't matter where you are. You're on the E3 show floor. We had that moment and we were like, all right, cool. Got it. And it wasn't even about his career, what he was doing. He didn't pitch me anything. And then a couple weeks later in January, he was like, hey, I didn't say anything then because it wasn't on my mind, but I've been thinking about, I can't get the idea out of my head of you joining this thing we're going to do. And it's fan controlled football. And there's some and I went, okay, right into the archive. I'm not going to respond to this email. Whatever. What is this guy trying to sell? But it was the strangest thing of all day long. I kept coming back to that thought. And so, like, 9:30 at night, I opened the computer and read the entire thing and read the PDF. And I emailed Nick and Tim, my co-founders. And I was like, hear me out. Like, this sounds crazy, but I don't think it's a pyramid scheme. This sounds like it might be awesome and that it could really be cool. And so we started taking meetings, and, his passion's infectious. And when he talks about it and explains it, it really got rolling. And for me, it was answering the questions and, I guess, problems I had with professional football, where I love pro football. I really do. Again, Chicago Bears fan, XFL fan. And, like, the reason we got into the XFL was it was affordable. We were in high school. You know what I mean? It was the first time we could get tickets to go to Soldier Field, where we could tailgate without our parents, where we could have all these experiments, right? And they actually cared about you there because they needed fans so desperately at the time. And so jump ahead here to, now 2021. But when I was talking to Deez about it, like, you're talking about shorter games, you're talking about faster football, you're talking about interactivity. And I'm famous for video games. And what that means in my daily life is that when I'm watching a movie with my wife at night, I'm always like, I can be enjoying it no matter what, but I'm always glancing at the watch, like, how much time am I going to get to game tonight? How much time am I actually going to get to do? And so the interactivity of it, of calling plays and doing this thing, that was exciting. The fact that games are just an hour, that was exciting. Cause, like, I used to go to the sports bar every Sunday here in SF, go watch the Bears play. But when I started dating Jen and we were long-term and she was in Montreal and it was, she'd come to visit and then 2 weeks later I'd go up there. The last thing I felt like doing with the limited amount of time we had was dragging her to the sports bar or in Montreal going to the sports bar. And so I all of a sudden was pretty much cold turkey and wasn't watching NFL games. And it just became too long for me. And it became too expensive in a lot of ways, right? Like NFL Direct Sunday Ticket. I did that for a long time. But when I wasn't using it and actually benefiting from it, I kind of fell off. And so all of this, of it being faster football, of it being something you're interacting with, it's on Twitch. And then the fact of, like, for us to own a team, like, for my audience, the Kind of Funny best friends, right? That's what we call the fans. Like, this is exactly what we do. I want to have these moments. I want to cut the promos on the Glacier Boys and have them all in on it too and joking around. I want to yell at Richard Sherman.
Glacier Boys are terrible, by the way.
Terrible. What a terrible name. Why the Z? Who are you trying to impress?
That was
Utah fans. Everything's D in Utah. I'm telling you.
True.
So yeah, how did that pitch go? I mean, did they tell you we're gonna have Marshawn Lynch, we're gonna have all these other guys? I mean, how did that go? Right? Because I mean, you guys were I think and you've talked a lot about this on Twitter this week, even with all the the getting people to follow everything. But like,
that's right. Don't forget everybody. FCF Wild Aces, most followed FCF account of all time.
Of course, but where you guys, people might look at like all the team owners and they go, maybe Greg and them don't fit, but you actually are like the perfect fit because of what you've been able to do with your online audience, right?
Yeah, and I knew my part from the start, right? Like my love of theatrics or whatever you want to call it that I do on the internet, right, stems very much from WWE. And that means that like I know that I play the heel and I know what my job is, right? And it's to put the faces over and to have that. And so when they approached it and explained it to us and it was going to be this interactivity thing, it's going to be on Twitch, I was like, oh yeah, my audience loves, like, we love the good natured giving each other, right? We love being the heel. We love doing that. They get that. And so we'll be able to bring that to it and have that authentic audience that is on the internet. Because that's the thing. Like again, Quavo, Marshawn, Richard, like they are actual celebrities, right? I'm an internet celebrity, which means $2 will get me a cup of coffee, right? Like I'm not a big deal, but I have this fan base that likes doing the same stuff I do or likes hearing about the same stuff I do. And so when they approached us, it was very much, I think they had Marshawn, I remember, because he was local and they were trying to get us into a meeting that never happened, but they wanted us to grab lunch before everything exploded. And it was that idea of like, we're bringing you in because we know your audience is active and you understand the digital side of the space. We're going to have plenty of guys that know the sports side of it, right? Austin Eckler is co-owner on the Wild Aces. And like, that was definitely a move of like, we'll bring in a real football player and he will be there. Like today, him and I were texting about like, how do you want to use these franchise tags and what do you want to do on? And I was like, here's what I like, yada, yada, yada. But I'm also like, you're the actual guy who knows what's going on. So you tell me if these are stupid ideas, because I'm very much thinking of the hashtags and I'm very much thinking of what's going to happen on the other end on podcasts. And so that's the marriage of it, I think, where it is that, yeah, I know that I'm going to go out there and pump the Wild Ace fan account up because my audience is there, right? Like, is Quavo's audience on Twitter and Reddit all day long? Probably not, but mine is, and we love doing this stuff.
Because that was my biggest, one of the biggest questions this week. We've been covering this since the start. One of the guys that works for me, Matt, he listens to you guys, and so he kind of turned this on to this fan controlled, because we're XFL and whatever. And so we've been following it the whole time. But it is this mix of you have these mega names, right? But they're not. Yeah, like what is Quavo doing? What is Marshawn? We've tried to get Miro on the podcast for months, right? He's a coward. Yeah, he's a coward. And so, but finally, getting people, like you said, it is that mix where we might not be the biggest name in the world, but your fan base is more passionate than anybody else's, right?
Totally. And I always point back to like, this, I'm used to this underdog role. And I always go back to, I throw it around in a joking sense, but in a real sense, I won a game award, right? I won Trending Gamer of the Year 2015, which was a fan voted award in which I was up against PewDiePie. I was up against Markiplier. I was up against people who are far bigger deals in streaming and YouTube than, What Kind of Funny is. We're a very interesting half editorial, half, kooky, crazy people who are doing whatever the hell weird thing we want to do. And so in our first year, when we were the smallest, right, we were able to win this award from two of the biggest names because I went on a podcast. I went on Twitter and I said, hey, audience, like, this matters to me. I'd like to do that. And this audience was like, we got you. We will set reminders in our phone to vote every 24 hours. We will tell our family to vote for you. They will, like, there were campaigns and people who did it and they stuffed the ballot box in a way that was able to, in my sphere, shock the world in a way that I shouldn't have won that. I remember going to the Game Awards that year and people were like, oh, are you covering it? And I'm like, no, I'm actually up for award. Oh my God, who are you against? And I was like, PewDiePie, Markiplier, like, oh, well, it's cool just to be nominated. Like no one there thought I was going to win it, let alone on the internet. And that's where we are now, where it's like, there's these 4 teams and they have all these great names and great heads for football, obviously. But in the same way you'd say any given Sunday, right? Any given Saturday night, like it's about who's calling the plays and what's happening out there and the combination we got from the Wednesday draft and what we've been able to figure out from there. And so I don't think there's so much heavy lifting on us to actually be calling the right plays or doing the right thing because we're just out there to be a vessel to get the talent on a different level and show them in a different way.
Are you concerned maybe with some of the, I don't know how expert you are when it comes to calling plays. If you play Madden, you call plays, things like that.
Yeah.
You do play Madden. Are you concerned maybe that there might be some fans that might call plays that might go against your team, might harm them?
I think, again, and I'm knocking on wood here, right? What we have going for us is the unity of it. And because I think the way I've been pitching it to the Wild Base fans, but the Kind of Funny audience, right, is like, this is another way for us to hang out on a Saturday. So I really do feel for our team, the lion's share of viewership will be on our co-stream. So I think if it is us doing that, and it is me texting with Austin and be like, dude, call this play right now. He's hot. The coverage is beat. I can say, hey, everybody, vote for the fourth play. Vote for this play. This is the one we want to run right now. And I think that will actually show in the numbers then that we'll have enough to go. Because I think so many of our audience members don't care about football, but they do care about hanging out, and they do care about me talking trash, and they do care about the costume I'm wearing or what Nick's going to do. Like, they care about the panache. And so if I have them there with their app open and I can be like, hey, go do this, go do it. In terms of calling the wrong play, no, like I was joking around yesterday, right? Like, since everybody's making the playoffs, I kind of have this like half idea of just like, what if we call the worst plays for the entire regular season? We just get there and then we really go crazy. Then we really come out and let the players play.
Where does, and I've always been curious about you guys specifically, this devotion and the fan base and just the care that your listeners and stuff have. I mean, what do you attribute that to? Is it just,
Sure.
I have no idea.
I mean, I attribute it to like, again, if you've never heard of me, you don't know anything I'm saying. I say Kind of Funny best friend. And I know that from a blanket statement, if Coca-Cola showed up, like Coca-Cola best friends, you're like, oh my God, what a bunch of marketing, drink the Kool-Aid stuff. For us, it's true because I've called my audience that forever. Like, it goes all the way back to Game Scoop in 2000, IGN Game Scoop, another gaming podcast, 2009, I guess it would have been, right? Where I remember for the first time breaking down in tears on a podcast, and I was talking about the fact that I was getting divorced. And I remember stopping in the middle, and I'm like, for the record, I'm not crying about the relationship. I'm getting choked up trying to tell you, listener, how much you mean to me. And that was where I started coining the phrase that if you listen to this, if you listen to me podcast or watch a show, you're my best friend, because I write and speak about games in the same way I used to tell my best friend Poe back home when he'd come over. He liked games. He didn't love them. He'd come over and he'd see me playing a game, be like, so what's the story with this one, right? And I'd pause it and I'd turn and I'd lay it all out for him. And that's how I wrote reviews, and that's how I podcasted. But the thing about podcasts is, I'm sure you all are well aware, like, you show up for the content and maybe, that's 75% of it. But the other 25% is, oh man, and the water heater broke last night and Jen did this and my mom's in the hospital. And yet people become part of your lives in a way that I always said, you're my best friend because you hear more about my life and know more about what's going on in my day-to-day than my family or real friends do. Because when I call my dad on Sunday and we have that, 30-minute conversation on the catch up, he's not getting the nitty-gritty moment to moment that you get from it. And so that went all the way through where I shared, not only my opinions about video games, not only the highs and lows of covering games and cool trips or lame things or, bad review embargoes, but it became personal achievements and personal struggles and all these different things, to the point that I don't think you can get a video game opinion anywhere. People come to Kind of Funny because they know us, and it is about talking to your friends again.
And has when you guys got involved in all this, were people excited? I mean, genuinely, because, and I want to talk to you too about the investment thing that they just announced with the teams. But did you feel that energy that people were excited about it more than just, hey, Greg says we should do this? I mean, are people excited about the league?
It was yes and no. It was hot and cold. There were definitely the audience members who, as soon as I did it, and I was like, because I remember at that time Mike Tyson was involved, and it was like, I'm going to be cutting promos on Mike Tyson, and people got that. They were able to wrap their head around it. But then there were people of our audience who were like, I don't care about football. Like, I don't want. They were concerned that the entire show, all the stuff we did, was going to turn into football. They were concerned that, since we get so much crowdfunding money, that we had put their money into this, and this wasn't what they were paying for. And we had explained in very plain terms what the ownership agreement was, right? And all these different things. Like, our audience loves us and our audience trusts us, but that isn't blind. That isn't blind faith. That is that we have to justify our decisions and talk to them. And so, like, again, where I think it made so many moves towards becoming an actual fabric of Kind of Funny was, that Patrick was down to do it the way we do everything. And what it was is that I told everybody for a week, we were going to do a press conference, had a big announcement. We opened it. It was me on a single shot. I explained we were getting a football team. I explained what it was going to be. And then we went wide and Patrick was there, and we answered the Twitch chat. And that meant we answered the people who were super excited. We answered the people that weren't about it. And from there, we've continued that exact line of questioning, right? Where, like, even with the, me trying to get the FCF Wild Aces Twitter account up, right? I was very frank of like, listen, if you don't care, please just follow and mute the account. Like, that's all I need from you. I just need to follow, and like, people resonate with that. And I think obviously this is so different and so unique that it really will come down to February 13th. The game starts and we're doing it. And even when we're doing it, and it is me and Nick joking around about something, still paying attention to the game, but not hanging on every word, hanging on every play. Oh, hey, I'm voting. Okay, cool. Back to what you're saying. Like, I think people are going to get a bit more of what we're going for with it.
Yeah, because sorry, just because like you said, where you guys are so much crowdfunded, right? Where it is, people do feel like they have an investment, right, in the content. I mean, and that's, I think, by design, right? So yeah, so when you announce, hey, we're doing this thing, if people don't like that, then maybe it is a different relationship where you have with your audience, right?
100%. I think you can go look at our videos, right? The Kind of Funny podcast, and before that, the Game Over Greggy show. And when it was a sports related topic, when it was a sports thumbnail, viewership tanks. Like, people aren't into that. That's not the audience we fostered. And that's a big part of it. And so I think there was a concern that this would dominate conversation, that this would become a huge thing, that it would take away from the content they actually enjoyed. When in reality, all it is adding more ways for us to be goofy, adding more ways for me to be weird on Twitter.
Going back to the fan control football thing, where you're talking about becoming an owner, there's been some rule changes here and there. Have you talked to your other co-owner with Austin Eckler about some of the rule changes? What are you guys' thoughts on those?
I mean, we saw the stuff yesterday. Obviously, with the website updated, there was a whole bunch of different things in there. I have a meeting. I believe it's next week. Like I said, though, today we were texting. I'm trying to get him over on our podcast, and then we were talking about franchise tags and who we're watching and where we're getting information. But we haven't gone rule by rule or anything like that yet.
Because there's a lot. I mean, we haven't. Yeah. I mean, it's a ton of stuff.
Well, that was the thing. He's like, we got to talk about this franchise tag, and I was like, going through Twitter. I'm like, I think we have 2 now. I think there's like 2 in here. Is that right? I saw somebody tweet about this and tag me in the thing from when they bought their share or whatever.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question is, they just announced obviously the investment thing and all that. Yeah. What do you think about that?
I think it's a really cool idea. I agree with it in the terms of it's what this is all about. When I talk about Kind of Funny, when we started on day one, I said, we're not building this for you. We're building this with you, right? Like, we're ground level with you, that we're all in this together. Like, that I think helps set expectations, because even now, we're 11 people, but when a decision gets made that people don't like, they do think of us as a corporation or something crazy, right? Not realizing that, again, it's me and my dog in my lap and this, and like, we're just trying to make cool content. And like, we would, let's have a conversation about this. I think FCF doing that with Republic and having the shares is the same idea. Where it is like, hey, we're starting from scratch, and the owners own this certain amount of shares per team or whatever. You can get in up until this point. You can be a part of that. I think it's a cool idea. Like, I think obviously I would be trepidatious about it if I was on the other side, right? Of like, cool, 150 is the minimum. That's a lot of money. And so it is that I think it's interesting to see as we run up to it. Again, you're asking people to bet on a product they haven't seen. Everything I've seen behind the scenes, every PDF I can't share, and every screenshot I've seen of the set or how they're going, or even them building stuff, I think it looks fantastic, and I can't wait to be a part of it. And I think that fear would be alleviated when we get there, but we're still not there, which is interesting. So the people who were doing it, I was surprised the amount of tweets I got of like, I am part of the Wild Aces, and I'm like, that's awesome. And I think if anything, it serves to me as more motivation, because I don't want to let them down. I don't want this thing to fail because I could have tweeted more, or I could have been more exciting, or I could have done more appearances, right? Like, I carry that on my shoulders, right? And I do like that we're all in it together.
Yeah,
I do appreciate that like you came on and talked with us about this, and
sure,
you've been the most vocal owner I think we've seen on Twitter. That's why we kind of like.
That's why they brought me in, Paul. They know that I'll do it. I'll get out there and do like Quavo. He doesn't even know what the hell's happening.
No.
Rude awakening when that happens.
Well, no, and we're, because you guys are no stranger to the Patreon and the crowdsourcing, but I'm looking here on the Wild Aces page. 74 people, $24,618 as of recording. Like you said, that's no small amount of money, right? So that is definitely like people putting their money and investment in this.
And I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't believe in it. Like I said, I tossed I archived the email immediately, then went back to it, then had so many conversations with these, and I've been blown away that every time there is an issue or every time I have a question, that not only do I get an answer from the FCF, I get the answer I would have given. And like that's the thing for me of why I'm so vocal about it and why I'm so excited about it. Like, I do think this is awesome. I do think like it's a tough road to hoe, right? To be like, we're starting a football league. But I think this has a chance. And I think the more you see people learn about it and get into it, the more excitement there is. And I can't believe the amount of people I've told about it who are like, what are you? So it's Madden. And I'm like, no, it's like Madden. And like they're real. Like you have to sit there and explain it. But when everybody has that moment of like, oh, like that actually sounds cool.
Very cool. Greg Miller. I don't know if Reed has any more questions for you.
Just like I said, just thank you so much for taking the time. Like I said, really, I couldn't tell you how many years back, in 08, 09, 10, you're listening to stuff. So I really appreciate getting to chat and you coming on the podcast and taking the time. It means a lot.
Hey, anytime when we get going, I got to come back. And talk about how it's actually out there in the trenches.
Yeah,
definitely. And again, we love your XFL original 1.0 shirt.
Can I tell stories about this? Because, like I said, it was a big deal. Chicago Enforcers, 3 out of 5 home games. Don't worry about it. But I'll never forget, me and my friends, again, in the Chicagoland area, went up to Mall of America to visit a friend who was doing a police camp up there. And we went to the mall and we're wandering around and we wandered into a sports store. And this is, maybe 2 years after the XFL had died. And we were looking through all the stuff and we pulled off, I forget the New York team, the Hitmen. They had a Hitman jersey. Yeah. And we pulled it off and we're like, oh my God, guys, it's XFL. Blah. And the owner literally did one of these and ran over and he's like, do you guys care about the XFL? And we're like, oh, we loved him. We went to all these. He's like, hold on. And he came back out with arms of stuff. And I got my Chicago Enforcer helmet. I had this shirt already. I got my Chicago Enforcers jersey. And it was all 82% off. He was so happy that someone wandered in and cared. I was so thrilled.
That's awesome.
Greg Miller, thank you for your time. We'll definitely have you on again to talk once the season gets really in the swing of things. And we appreciate, you being the biggest promoter of this.
Hey,
it's great to see you. It's
I appreciate you guys getting in on the ground floor and talking about it. You know what I mean? That's the other thing too, where it's I think the closer we get, the more people get excited, but having people like you that are evangelizing and not even evangelizing, you are asking questions. I've seen the show. I've listened to what you guys are doing. You're asking questions. You're being skeptics as you should, as we launch a league and ask for money and stuff like that. I can't thank you enough for actually giving it the time of day. And it's going to be interesting as we keep getting going and gain momentum to see not only your thoughts, but then the amount of people who are like, oh, now I got to go listen to this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Greg Miller, thank you for your time. We'll talk soon.
I want to Beyond before we go. Do you still do Beyond?
Beyond, of course I still do. Are you kidding me? Come on now, don't worry about that.
See you, man. Thank you.
I'll talk to you guys later. Have a great show.
That was so good.
Yeah, we want to thank Greg Miller again for joining us here on the XFL Markcast. Spending 20, 25 minutes talking about his involvement with the Fan Control Football League, and we'll definitely have him on again. Great interview.
We'd love to have him on again. Like I said, I'm a fan. It meant a lot to me. It meant more than talking to Chad Ochocinco and stuff. So I mean, really, as a fan, that was a big day for me. So,
all right. So now I guess we get to the end of the Markcast, and we're calling this segment officially now "Things That Annoy Paul."
Things that annoy Paul. It won the poll. It won the poll with 46.7% of the votes. Dorothy's Mark Castaways segment came in second. So it is called the segment at the end of the show is now called the Things That Annoy Paul at the end of the show. And
the reason why they annoy me is because he always says the Google Docs 3 pages and almost a page of this is this garbage segment. And I'm like, do we really need this stuff? And that's why it annoys me. That's why it annoys
It's all gold. It's all gold.
Speaking of, one thing that annoys me, you keep talking about Young Rock. We're not talking about it here.
Yeah. So I really did. It's debuting February 16th, I think. Trailer looks good. Dorothy's excited. I said, we will not be covering this on the show because I ran a poll. Man of my word, I said, do you want us to talk about this on the show? Yes, no, absolutely not. Or what is Young Rock? Overwhelmingly no. So I don't want any questions about it. Weeks into this, people, I know you're going to be tweeting what do you guys think about Young Rock? We're not covering it on the show. And that is voted by the listeners.
I'm sure Reed will watch it. I will not be watching it. I just don't have any interest in it. I just I watched Everybody Hates Chris. I don't watch Young Sheldon. These kinds of TV shows don't appeal to me. That's why I never had any interest in. No disrespect to The Rock. He's done great for himself. I have no draw to watch this, to invest the time in a show that, sometimes might not make it past one season.
The one questionable thing about this is he in the show is running for president. And so I'm trying to figure out, like, is that a foreshadowing for him actually, like, that's the whole show, right? Is I think he's running for president and doing like an interview about like his childhood, and then we see everything.
I don't know.
We're not going to be covering it, so we don't know.
We don't need any more celebrities running for president, please. Let's just have normal politicians.
Oh my God.
That will, lie but not lie.
Just two things on the segment today for real. What did you think of this Lionheads coach? Did you hear this?
The one that we was talking about they're eating their kneecap.
We're going to eat the kneecap. And then when they get up, we're going to eat the other kneecap. And then when they get back up, we're going to hit them in the back. And then when they get back up, it's
Did you
crazy.
coach the Lions? Like, you guys have never eaten a kneecap in your life.
No, they're terrible.
Why is anyone afraid of you right now? And I guess Matthew Stafford is not a cannibal. That's why he's out.
Yeah. What do you think of Stafford leaving after 9 years, 10 years?
I think it's unfortunate because Stafford is a very good quarterback. I think he's a very good quarterback. I just don't think they've ever given him a chance. So I think it's good for Matt. I hope he gets another start for another 4 or 5 years somewhere else, and is able to retire a winner eventually.
He sold his house. Looks freaking awesome. He was selling in Detroit. So I've been standing here sweating for the last like half hour. Greg came on and I couldn't like turn the heat down. I finally had to log into the Nest account and turn the heat on. Dorothy has the heat set to 71 degrees. I'm standing in this room. I'm like boiling alive. Sorry. I'm like, I was going to have to go like take a break and go turn the heat down. I'm like dying of sweat.
Dorothy.
I'm not just flushed from talking with Greg. I'm like literally dripping with sweat. Anyway, yeah, Stafford sold his house. It looked awesome. It has an indoor pool. It has a wine cellar and all this other stuff. So
he's done in Detroit. Another thing on this, things that annoy Paul is definitely something that annoys me because I don't watch this show, and I'm told all the time by Nitty, I should watch this show, and I just don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. Although The Bachelorette, that girl was cute. Like, she was really attractive.
Tasha.
Oh my gosh. I was like, okay, maybe. And then I realized it was a Bachelorette.
So Matt James, the current Bachelorette, we remember longtime fans of the show will know that we covered the Bachelorette last season when Brandon Silvers, the QB of the Dragons, was parading around the Bachelorette under the pseudonym Chase and Nick. I still want to get Chase on the podcast. If anyone has any connections at all to Chase and Nick, he cannot be doing anything now. The Bachelorette's been off for months.
I don't know. He's getting ready for a football season.
Chase and Nick?
If it's Brandon Silver's the same guy.
Oh, I get what you're saying. I mean, it's spring camp. Anyway, Matt James was on The Bachelorette, and this was very funny. Just it all connects. Matt James.
Go ahead.
Yeah, we don't need to play the audio. Matt James was on Good Morning Football. They were talking to him because he went to Wake Forest. Guess who also went to Wake Forest?
You're going to tell me.
John Wolford, quarterback, AAF, that played for the Rams, right?
The Wolford of Wall Street.
The Wolford of Wall Street, hungry like a Wolford. And they were talking to him about that. And McVay has said there is going to be a very real, this is from McVay, there's going to be a very real quarterback competition going into next year between John Wolford and Jared Goff.
What's Jared Goff's contract? What is his contract?
It's $100 million and it hasn't even kicked in yet. It's like 4 years.
So like $25 million a year.
It's a hefty contract, and I think McVay, the GM of the Rams, was on this week, and he said Jared Goff is a Ram for now.
For now,
I'm very real. John Wolford, hungry like a Wolford, star of episode 18 or whatever, or 20, whatever of XFL Markcast, very much could be the starting quarterback for the Rams next year. I'm just saying. AAF, spring football works. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, $25 million base salary, $5 million signing bonus. The cap hit would be $34 million if they were to release Jared Goff. I don't see them paying $25 million for a backup quarterback. I don't.
Well, I'm just saying, from the words of Sean McVay, there is going to be a quarterback competition in camp. That's all I'm saying. And it relates. Anyway, Matt James was on Bachelor. He was on Good Morning Football. They buried him, though. He was in like the third hour. I was like, that is how you know that's not a hot interview, when they bury that in the third hour of the show.
Well, it's not really a hot show, Reed. I'm being completely honest.
It's been on the air for 25 years, Paul.
That may be true, but no.
Anyway, this has been a long episode today. I'm going to let you go. I gotta make a phone call here. Thank you again to Greg Miller and Paul for putting up with everything. So appreciate that. Fan Control Football is kicking off in a couple weeks. Be ready for whatever XFL news is going to break today or tomorrow. Now that we recorded, it's 1:27 p.m. on Thursday. So anything that happens from now until next week, it's not on the show.
Oops. Again, Greg Miller, thank you. Log on, xflshow.com/review. Leave us a review. Also, xflshow.com/merch. Support the show financially. And we appreciate all your listening, all your patronage, and we'll see you here next week.
Thanks.